Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Toy Reel. Today we have a massive episode in store for you. We're actually going to review a lot of the DC Collectibles Batman animated series stuff. Mike and I are massive fans. There's a lot of stuff here, as you can see on the table, but Mike and I decided that we really wanted to look at these expressions pack. Now, the Batman animated series is a TV series that aired roughly from September 92 to 95. I think there was something like 85 episodes all up. And then in the last 15 episodes, it was called The Adventures of Batman and Robin. For the last 15 episodes. And then it carried on onto the new Batman Adventures and also Batman Beyond.
Yeah, Batman Beyond was sort of set in a future timeline, but it was all kind of in the same continuity.
And I think with DC Collectibles as well, they did make more figures within the line itself. But man, I think there's a lot to cover, and in typical fashion here at Toy Reel, we try and bite off more than we can chew. So just quickly, a bit of background about the series itself. The entire series, I think, was renowned for several things. Very intricate themes, a film noir sort of aesthetic. In general, I think the whole cartoon had a sort of a darker tone compared to, let's say, normal cartoon stuff.
For a cartoon series, it was kind of unique in that it wasn't adult in the way that most people would think of it, where it's like super violent or bloody or gory or whatever. It was still like a cartoon that kids could watch, but it was more grown up in the themes that it explored. It's mature, I guess, like I said, more in theme and more in approach, because it isn't. It's not cartoony. It's not played. There's not a lot of obvious kind of plays for humor and things like that you expect in a kid's cartoon. It's sort of everything's kind of got a very serious tone to it, and but not in. There's still little bits of humor. It's not entirely.
But really well done, and I think the appeal about the toys, and we'll get into toys in a minute. Like I said, we're going to unbox and review these three. And you've actually opened them, so I'd like to get your thoughts on them, like honest thoughts on them. But let's talk about, I think, the style or the look of it. I mean, we have a ton of things here. We've got the Batcave with Alfred, we got the 3 Expressions pack, we have the Batmobile pack, and we also have the Rogues Gallery, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. Okay, they released quite a lot of figures. But stylistically, the look of these figures, obviously derived by two guys, Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, which Bruce is the the Art Deco kind of guy, but I know that it was sort of modeled after Radomski's sort of look, and he was the producer of the show as well. Now, we were discussing this earlier, and a lot of the aesthetics were taken from Tim Burton's Batman. So there's that Art Deco sort of very. That
timeless kind of quality. Burton really brought that in. I mean, it was always kind of there with Batman because of its origins in the 40s. I think it's the 40s, it might be a bit earlier. Because of his origins in that era, it's always kind of kept that sort of Art Deco, 1940s, Prohibition era kind of vibe in a lot of the things that they do throughout all of Batman and the comics and all that kind of thing. But Burton really took that home and gave it that. It's something that's carried over in the television show, the live action Gotham as well, where it's sort of a timeless place where they've got like old cars, but then they've got like computers and all that sort of stuff. So they really carried that home. And there's blimps and things like that,
airships, which never existed. Police airships, and the influence again was from Burton's Batman, which was in I think 89 and 92. And the thing that I think, for me, I remember very vividly, sort of when I was 15 and buying The Dark Knight Returns, and that was a Frank Miller thing. And I've always been into Batman, but it seems that the animated series has this sort of nice balance between, like I said, a lot of the darker tones and the more adult themes mixed with Burton's sort of thing. It seems to be like some strange way a combination of all these different Batman.
It's still a cartoon.
Treatments.
Yeah, it's still a cartoon, and it's still got the comic booky vibe. That's what I like about the animated series. But I think the biggest part about it, and this is something a lot of people like about it, is just it's the version of Batman that they still haven't really done like a live action version of Batman in this way. And he's kind of the epitome of the detective Batman, right? And that's what I always liked about the animated series. He uses his mind more than he uses his fists a bit more with the cartoon. So and that's the kind of style that it goes with. More of that measured pace and more thoughtful kind of discussion and conversation of these wacky kind of characters that he you still got things like Killer Croc and what is it? It's not Batman. It's Man-Bat. You know,
Yeah,
you've still got
Man-Bat,
the
yeah.
first episode is Man-Bat, right? Which is like one of the weirdest Batman villains and like one of the ones nobody would think of. And so they still embrace that weird comic booky kind of style with it, but they treat it with a sort of seriousness and a bit of a reverence without going, you know, super dark, like a bit more of the Nolan style where he tried to make everything very grounded and real.
Yes. There's such a nice measured balance between everything. As far as voices, you know, distinguished voices are concerned, or distinct voices are concerned, I mean, obviously we had, you know, Kevin Conroy, who was the epitome of, I mean, was so... He is Batman. And then the one thing, obviously, that a certain, and we're all Star Wars fans here at Toy Reel, and there was a relation to that, and that was Mark Hamill actually doing the voice of the Joker, right? But the one thing that I was bummed about was that Al Pacino was actually meant to do Harvey Dent Two-Face, but he turned it down.
Yeah, you can kind of understand that.
And Richard Mole obviously did it. Not to say that Richard didn't do a good job, but I wish Al Pacino did do that.
It would be interesting to hear Al Pacino do a Two-Face.
Purely, can you imagine Al Pacino in a Scarface accent doing Harvey Dent? No, I don't think so. Kill him. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that will work either. But anyway, let's talk about the toys, because really based again on what we see and what we have in front of you.
You went a little crazy, didn't
I did go a little crazy. I mean, all of us here. I mean, the guys like Ben and Simon are really into the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff, but you know, this is where we share a similarity, and that is the Batman stuff. So I've always been a big DC fan. Can't say much about the films, but doesn't stop me from not liking DC. In fact, I always enjoyed DC more so when I was younger reading comics than I did Marvel. I
think I've always enjoyed more, as someone who's not a super big comic book guy, or I don't really have a bat in either DC or Marvel camp, you know what I mean? I find a lot more of the DC stuff, especially the graphic novels and stuff they do. Like DC did Watchmen, you know what I mean? Yes. DC are the publisher of Watchmen. A lot of the best Batman stuff, obviously, all the Batman stuff is DC, but you know, Batman has a lot of really iconic books and things like that. And you know, they share those really big iconic characters in Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. Like, they're all very iconic in terms of comic books, and most of the comic book characters now a lot of people think of as being iconic, like your Iron Man and your Captain America and all that kind of stuff. They weren't actually Captain America a little bit, but like especially Iron Man in particular, he's only sort of more recently become an iconic and popular kind of character, and that's through Marvel doing lots of that good work. Given the wonders of Hollywood, and as well as exactly, and Disney as well. Good business is what did that. Exactly. I mean, but this has cult status, and I think this is so important in terms of how it shaped the industry. So for me, the toys and getting this, and you know, the thing I like about this, and I have to admit though, getting all these toys here, I mean, like from the Cave to the Batmobile to the Rogues Gallery, it was so easy to get them, and also the fact that they built the scale. I mean, it's nice, particularly for 6-inch stuff. Now, like I said, let's start. Let's move on. Let's unbox these. So, what do you want to unbox first? I mean, shall we look at Harley Quinn, or shall we look at Joker, and then we can unbox which one? Which one do you want to unbox first? Yeah, I think we can start with Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn? Okay, cool. All right. So I'm just gonna put this down here, and then we can get you to unbox it. The first thing is obviously to look at the packaging itself. Yeah, I know. We've had people give us feedback saying that we should actually talk about the packaging. Well, packaging is important, you know, and all the packaging here is really good. You know, like the colors, and I like that this is it's very as someone with a bit of a design background, it's very minimalist, very modern kind of styling, where it's very flat coloring, and that does also suit the animated series, which has that as a primary sort of feature. You know, it's very indicative of the actual animation. It's a nice standout box design. The window itself is really good, especially on these ones, because you can see everything almost, you know, but there's still stuff hidden behind there, but you can see pretty much everything you're getting. And as far as when you're shopping for a toy or whatever, anything really, the fact that you can see how much is in there, and then you look at the price of these things, and you can kind of see the value in the box just by that window, because the price seems quite nice. Whereas if it was just sort of like, you know, a closed off box with maybe only a small window of the figure, you might not get an idea of the value in there. So I think they've done a really good job on these boxes. No, I think it's brilliant marketing also. And I think packaging, I mean, look, even the little sticker up there says 27 pieces included. Yeah. 32 pieces, 30 pieces. It does
like I said, it gives you, offers value, and that's the main thing when you're buying toys. And as we all know, toys are so expensive these days. So yeah, absolutely good point.
And they just stand out too. When you see these, like, I mean, you know, I've seen these in stores, and when you see them all stacked up nicely, they've got like a, you know, it's sort of this weird kind of shape they've got to them as well, which, you know, it just gives them something a little weird and extra. It's not just a standard blister pack, you know, so it makes them stand out. It gives them a bit more of a kind of high quality feel, I guess, and it makes it feel special because they've sort of gone to the efforts to give it this weird kind of edge and all that kind of stuff, even to the point of making the blister match the corner there, you know. It's a little bit of extra detail that probably costs them nothing, but it just makes it stand out from like every other toy box that's on the shelf, you know what I mean? Cool.
All right, so let's get tucked into these, and then we're going to briefly mention what else we see on the table as well. I mean, just looking at it now, I didn't realize the top, you got the top section that has all the different accessories, different head swaps and stuff. And then at the bottom, you have the bases as well as more accessories underneath as well. So again, incredible amount of accessories.
Yeah, I have these already unboxed and I've posed them a bit. So I've had a bit of experience with the 3 sets that we've got there. So the paint itself, like in terms of the paint job, is really good. I like that it's really simple, and I'm not a big toy collector guy, and I don't generally get them because I find most toys lack, you know, the detail that I look for, you know, because I'm more of a miniatures kind of painter, and I look for very high detail sort of stuff. So a lot of the, you know, sort of more standard toys, until you go to like the Hot Toys and things like that, generally have very basic painting, which I feel doesn't, you know, when they're trying to replicate a movie character or something like that, I find it just it's never indicative enough for me. But with these, they've got the advantage of them being from the animated series, which has that really simple art style. It has just very, you know, basic 1 to 3 colors on a character kind of thing. So it works really well here because the paint itself is very bright, it's very vibrant, and it definitely feels like an animated series character when you look at it, and that goes across all of them. All the accessories are painted really well. They do have a little bit, I noticed they're not particularly hard wearing. It seems to be a little bit random and inconsistent just how well the paint handles. For instance, on Batman and Joker figures, I haven't had any problems with the paint, but on my Harley, there was a little bit on her chest that had just flaked off, like the tiniest little speck of paint, you know what I mean? So I'm not sure how hard wearing they're gonna be in the long term, and that's sort of the only negative I'd say about the paint job. I wouldn't want to handle these figures a lot.
Oh, okay, you think so?
Yeah, like I'd just be cautious of it. I might just have one that's, you know, got a little bit of a dodgy paint, because like I said, it's only Harley that's really had that problem. But the only other thing that gives me a little bit of concern is that, particularly the hands, and when you use the interchangeable hands, there is actually a bit of paint will flake off the joining parts. Right. So the paint on the actual peg, it actually feels like they've sort of painted, on the ones that actually are in the hand by default, they're quite good.
They're okay.
Yeah, but the extra hands, the accessory hands, I've only really noticed this problem though on my Harley and my Joker. My Batman doesn't seem to have this issue, so it could just be a quality control thing.
Oh, look at it, what just happened?
Yeah.
So even this whole thing's just come off.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Well.
Come out of it, yeah. Because it's a really tight joint, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the main
complaint.
Overall negative thing I'd have about these figures is just that the joints seem really tight. The actual part itself has been made and milled to the correct size. But they've painted it, right? Because you notice the paint comes off, and I've noticed if I just wear the paint off the peg, you know, by using, you know, very light, I just use a very light file to sort of file it away. It's sort of, the paint will come off, and then it goes in there perfectly, and it stays where it's supposed to, and all that kind of thing.
Well, even now I'm having trouble putting the original hand back.
Putting the original hand back on. Yeah, I actually also gave it, you know, use a very small file and quickly went through the actual socket as well, just to make it a bit easier. Once I did that, it was fine. I seemed to be able to interchange the hands pretty regularly. But I noticed, that's sort of the only real thing I'd I really complain about that gives me any cause for concern with the figures.
Yep.
But as I said, I've only actually noticed it on Harley and the Joker figure.
The Joker figure. Okay.
The Batman figure was perfect. Yeah. All the hands go in and out. There's no worries there at all. So I don't know if it's a quality control thing or if it's across the range.
And 9 times out of 10 it probably is, because these are mass produced.
Yeah.
Right. So
Exactly.
the QC might be a bit of an issue, but considering value and also all the accessories you get. So let's quickly run through what we've got in the set. So for Harley Quinn, you get the stand. What else is what other bits and pieces you get?
So you get the stand, and the stand is like an action pose sort of stand. She's got an extra belt here.
Yep.
She's also got, this one's pretty cool, which is like smoke that'll inserts nicely into the pistol, which is another one of the accessories. And then she's got a whole bunch of hands and even a wine bottle down there.
On top tray, we have obviously all the interchangeable heads.
Yeah.
Bazooka, the pistol. Boxing glove.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Goes into the bazooka.
Bazooka, yeah.
So she can shoot.
Yeah. The 2 hyenas.
Yep.
Roller skates, and obviously her
Little one there,
little
yeah.
one staff thing.
Yeah.
So
Fish head, you can't forget the fish head.
fish head, yeah, okay, iconic piece, definitely. Okay. So yeah, in terms, again, quite good value. But overall thoughts, how much will, in terms of the figure itself, what would you rate?
For me, I really like these figures. Like, I probably have a few negative things to say, but I do really like the figures.
But just for Harley?
Do think they're valuable. I think she is good value for money. Of the three, she's probably the worst value for money, just in terms of you get a few less accessories, you could probably use a few different hands. Whilst I like the weird quirkiness of the accessories they give you, something like a hammer and all that would have been cool.
Okay. So out of 5?
Out of 5, really, I would give it a 3.
Yep.
And I mean, for me, a 3 is a good, like that's like average, right? That means that it's a very nice figure that I think people should buy and collect.
Yep.
But because of some of those little QC issues, one thing, there's a couple of things that bug me in terms of her posability. Like her waist doesn't twist, so that makes her a little bit harder to pose. I'm not a fan of the branding stamps on the backs of her legs here. It's a little, it's on the back. I mean, they couldn't really put it in a better place because she's such a small figure.
Yep.
And obviously, female figures tend to be a little bit trickier in terms of where they place the joints and stuff like that, because they try to maintain that very comic booky sort of physique and that curviness of the feminine form. And it can be hard to do that with some of the blockiness of the joints and things like that.
And they're generally harder to pose and stand as well.
Yeah. So she's not super awesome and easy to pose, but again, I think I find that with most female figures. But I love all the expressions that she has. I think you've got one for almost anything, and you can put her in a very wide variety of poses. She's got heaps of hands and heaps of accessories. I mean, the hyenas are awesome. The hyenas are posable too. You can see the legs here, they've got posability. So she comes with a whole bunch of cool extras. Value for money wise, excellent. It's really just the quality control parts that I think kind of let it down a little bit, and some limitations in the posability that make me give it.
Favorite accessory?
Favorite accessory out of this? Ooh, I really gotta go with the pistol and the smoke. Pistol and the smoke together, right? If it was just a pistol, it might not be my favorite accessory, but because they've got that little smoke, and the actual smoke pattern is exactly the same as one of the stills from one of the episodes kind of thing. It's just a nice little iconic extra that you've got there.
Let's try and see if we can pull it out. So we just noticed one thing. We'll take the pistol out and the little smoke cloud. What's happened?
Yeah, well, it looks like it's a little bit, the peg there is a little deformed.
So that peg is very deformed, and there's no way I can mount it on that pistol.
Oh, you could, but you'd have to sort of, you'd have to sort of cut that chunky bit off there, or, something like that. So that's a little disappointing. But mine, the one I have at home, was perfectly fine. It fit in first time. Doesn't have any problem staying. So.
That's the thing. That's the thing about mass production. You're going to have QC issues. So so that's your favorite.
It's my favorite. Yeah, not this one, not your one.
Not my one.
You can keep this one. My one's good.
Okay, cool. I like the wand and the bazooka.
Yeah.
So those I'm not a big fan of hyenas. Don't know why, but
the hyenas are an odd choice.
I know, right? Yeah.
They're a little bit of an odd choice. You know, I think most people would have been happier with a hammer instead of hyenas, but I kind of like that because it's something that it's kind of a reference that only fans are going to get into. So, okay. I mean, I think maybe that's why they've made that decision there. Yeah.
So the next set we're going to look at is, we're going to look at the Joker.
Yeah.
Let's unbox this sucker.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the Joker, unboxed.
Yeah.
Ton of accessories everywhere. Actually, before we talk about the figure, a good idea, as you can see here, is to buy one of these packing boxes, clear cells, that I put all my accessories in there for. So when you
yeah, especially for figures like this where they come with so many,
yeah.
a little bit, and a lot of them. The Joker's ones are actually, most of them are quite large, but like we were looking at the Harley set, she's got a lot of really small accessories.
Yeah.
But you know, even Joker does too. Like particularly there's the hand grenades and things like that that are quite small, easy to lose. So you definitely want to keep. I find a container like that's way better than something like you know, just the plastic bag or something like that.
All right, let's get on to the Joker. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I really like the figure. It's an exact, like it's almost perfect representation of the character from the series.
Yeah.
I really like this material. I'm not entirely sure what this material is. I'm not sort of well learned, but I like the material that they've used on the jacket there because it's sort of soft. You know, and it holds its shape, but it still gives you the appearance of a jacket without looking too stiff and too rigid that way. It's interesting they gave him the jacket with the hat combination. You know, I actually like this look a lot of the Joker, but that you also get, you know, the option to change it to, you know, sort of the more traditional Joker suit. Yeah. With the purple suit.
In the purple suit.
Yeah, and it's a really option. We won't go through changing all the accessories and stuff at the moment, but it is a really easy thing to change. You know, the jacket literally goes on. There's some little indicators here that you use to line it up. And it lines up, and it's very easy to, you know, figure out which bit's left and which bit's right, and it just kind of goes on, and you put the appropriate arms on there, and it all fits together really nicely, and it's a really cool way of doing it. But you get the, you know, you get the basic stand here. I love it when I get a stand in there. You know, it's odd that only the Joker has this stand. As far as the expression packs go, you know, I would have liked one of these for Harley and Batman as well, but they only get this type of stand. Not that this type of stand's bad, but it's sort of a bit more of an action pose kind of stand.
That's right. Actually, if they have peg holes, it would make complete sense, because I know when Aaron before was putting these together, the stands on the individual, some of the individually carded figures have this weird kind of like, we'll talk about this in a minute, but it doesn't lend itself to nice posability. We had initial problems with trying to orientate the stands so that the capes don't sort of drape over the stand, and I mean that's what Aaron had to end up doing just here. So it's a bit odd, a bit of an odd choice in why they would have stands like that rather than just a simple stand with a with a peg.
Yeah, I mean just do those stands. Those stands are great, you know, just for having them stand upright.
When you think about toys on the market these days, I mean DC Collectibles have always copped a lot of flack, you know, but when I look at, again, generally in terms of the value that they offer and also the variety of, like, again, play sets, vehicles. I mean, the Batwing, for example, is a massive vehicle. You know, I haven't even gone down that deep dark path yet. Trust me, I don't want to do that. But incredible value, really, really good value, you know? I mean, think about the tooling that you need to do all these different head sculpts, et cetera, with all the different hands and things like that, so.
And the quality of them is good, you know, like they all look nice, they're all painted quite nicely. As I said before, the Joker has the same problem as Harley with, you know, the hands and not quite fitting and needing a little bit of encouragement to get in there, and that's, you know, it's still a downside for him. It's a bit less of a downside for him than it is for Harley. But even just the fact that this rubber ducky here, which is, you know, another silly little thing they've done, is actually...
Oh, it's actually rubber.
It's actually rubber.
That is well done.
Fantastic. You know, it's a little detail like that.
It smells good too. It smells like one of those rubber little things
I think these must be a type of rubber too, because it's a very similar feeling material.
Man, this is fantastic. So what would be your favorite accessory in this pack?
With the Joker, I'm partial to. God, I got a bit of a thing for weapons, don't I? I'm partial to the pistol with the bang flag because that's just it's very Jokery, you know. A close second, I don't know. A close second would just, I don't know if that counts as accessory though, but this would be a close second with the actual clothing.
Yeah, I think mine would be this definitely. This so anyway, okay, cool. Let's move on to the last set of the expressions pack. So. Just quick question, would you keep the boxes or would you throw them out?
I haven't decided yet. I still have my boxes. I'm not generally a box collector kind of guy. I will generally buy the figure, pose the figure and throw the boxes away, which is probably, you know, sacrilegious for most collectors. But I'm not a big fan of collecting boxes. But with these particular ones, I haven't decided yet because I really do like the design of them and I like the they're kind of a good way to store the figures if I'm not, you know, able to display them or something like that. Cool. But they are quite big and bulky too, so they are hard to store. So, I mean, that does come into it as well.
There's soft goods cape as well as plastic capes. And one of the things I know with the individually carded figures is that they're plastic capes. And that posed a bit of a problem as far as getting the individual figures into the Batmobile itself. So it's good to see that this comes with a cloth cape. Which is very similar to this one that came with the Batmobile.
Personally, I don't like the cloth cape.
You don't like the cloth cape?
No. I'm actually a bigger fan of these capes because this is, again, the same sort of rubbery material we get with the Joker's cape. I like that they're a nice, hard, sort of stiff, iconic shape, you know, so you've got one that's
pre-sculpted as well.
Pre-sculpted. This one's good sort of for him jumping or flying or for action poses, and this one's really good for him just sort of standing stationary. I feel like the cloth cape is a little thin.
But overall, it looks like a stunning figure. I mean, man, you know what? I got to ask you as well. I mean, particularly from a photographic standpoint, these will be really nice figures to photograph. Don't you think?
Well, again, it's the thing I like about it, because they're supposed to be simple. It works really well. You know, they're not meant to have heaps of shading and detail and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it really suits the source material. So you can do really good, you know, photos with them, and they've got the sculpts are good. So you can shape with lighting and stuff like that. You know, and they're gonna come up well. You know, with a little bit of you know, time and effort in your lighting setup or where you place them, and they will look quite nice.
The thing I don't understand is that Joker came with a simple stand, a peg stand, and we don't have one here.
Yeah, you just got the same sort of action pose stand that we got with the rest of them. So they all have that, but only the Joker seems to come with that little one. Well, so it's something overall with these sets is it's hard to tell if they've picked things on purpose or if it's just kind of a grab bag of different weird things that they put together. Because sometimes it just feels like it's like they put that in there because they could fit it, and they didn't put one in here because they couldn't. You get what I mean? So it's a little odd and a little random, I find.
I like the expressions. I think also it was really good that they had the Bruce Wayne head in there.
So you got
really nice to have Bruce Wayne's head.
So you got Bruce Wayne and then a bunch of different. I like that you got the bloody. You know, he's a bit beaten up, you know, because Batman does get beaten up a lot.
What other accessories?
Mostly it's just all these gadgets, which, you know, is to be expected with Batman because he's very gadget heavy. You've got some batarangs, you've got the grappling gun, only 4 hands as well, just like Harley, but, you know, that's enough because, I mean, technically it's 6 because the hands that are on there you can change.
The baseball bat's a bit of an odd one, though.
The baseball bat's a bit weird for Batman. It's, again, it takes me back to that whole idea. Is it just random? Because, like, I actually, as I've got them in my house at the moment posed, I've actually given that to Harley. And that actually fits quite well in Harley Quinn's hands. That actually fits quite well for her. So I gave that to her because it fit her character a bit more. It might be an episode I'm just not recalling where Batman goes crazy with a baseball bat, and you know, some fan will probably tell me that how could I forget that. But so he's got lots of accessories. His accessories are probably the least inspiring in that way, just because they are all very, you know, monotone colored. There's a bit less creativity I find in his accessories, but I feel like basically the fact you get 3 different capes kind of compensates for that.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have like a utility belt or something like that.
Oh, actually, that would be a brilliant idea.
If the utility belt could be a thing that you could actually attach things to, but I think we're getting outside of, you know, the scope and price range of this particular type of range of figures. We get into Hot Toys territory.
Yeah. But still, I mean, again, like I said, I think DC Collectibles have always copped a bit of flack for not making things. But I don't know why, but I've been really drawn to them recently. And these figures are slowly going out of production. There's also a new wave coming out, so stay tuned, obviously. I mean, with I think the continuation of the Batman animated series. And I know that we gave Harley a 3. We need to give also the Joker and Batman a rating. So what would be your thoughts on the Joker in general?
The Joker's tricky because I like a lot about him, but it is hard to get past some of those same problems that I had with Harley. And some of the tougher joints and things feeling a little bit... a good thing is nothing feels particularly fragile. But he does lack a little bit of posability, but ironically, of the 3, he's the only one who can actually twist his waist, whereas the other 2 can't twist their waist.
Look, I got a standing.
Got it standing.
So that Harley was a 3?
Yeah.
Joker?
I think I still have to give Joker a 3 too, because I'm just a stickler for that kind of quality. And that's more me trying to just judge the figure objectively. In terms of how much I like the figure, I really do like the figure, and I think it's a great little figure. But just in terms of being finicky, requiring a little bit of work, you know, to get it, I think, in that perfect pose and to be able to use it for photos and stuff like that. So got to give it a 3 because it's good, but I don't want to, you know, oversell. I wouldn't want to oversell it to someone, and it would be hard to give that to someone who's not a little bit experienced or prepared to do a little bit of work to make those hands fit and be delicate with it and all that sort of stuff. So I'd have to give it a 3.
Okay, what about Batman?
Batman's really good. He doesn't have a lot of those same problems. You know, the hands all fit nicely. I don't mind that the accessories are a tiny bit underwhelming. But this little cape, not a fan of that. Not a fan of this. It looks like paper. You know, like if you're gonna do soft goods, it's got to be good. You know, it can't just be like a flat little piece of meat. But I would give Batman a 4 just because he doesn't have any of those glaring issues. I'd probably give him a 5 if he was a little bit more posable, but he is very rigid and hard to move. Now, I mean, that kind of suits the character, so it's not a massive downfall, but it does make him a little hard, especially if you want to get him doing things that are a bit more dynamic, like jumping and all that kind of stuff. He is a little bit too hard to pose, so I have to give him a 4. But a 4 is very good, and honestly, they're all good. Like, they're all figures that I own. Like, for me, they're entirely worth the money, but a lot of that also comes from the fact that I'm a massive fan of the animated series, you know, and I think these are really good representation of those figures, you know. I'd probably give all of them a 4 out of 5 if you were just talking about purely look and aesthetics. You get what I mean? It's just the posability and stuff like that, you know.
Okay, so we've gone through the 3 expressions pack. Really, like once again, good value for money, but there are all these other bits and pieces on here as well. We're not going to go through the entirety of all of them, but it's something, again, once we went on a roll, I acquired.
Well, the thing I've noticed is all relatively the same. Like, it's very, aside from those little QC issues, everything else is very consistent. So the quality of the paint, the design and the styling is really consistent, which I really like, because it means that they all fit together as part of a collection. So you can buy, you know, the Batcave, the Batmobile, Batman, Robin, all this stuff. It all fits together seamlessly. It all looks like it's part of the same range and figure thing.
I mean, we can leave the Batcave over there, but what's really cool about it is that it lights up. It's quite a nice little piece. So this is really cool. Actually, Aaron put this together, and it took, how long would you say it took you to put together? Maybe 10 minutes, Aaron? 10 minutes, yeah. Really nice piece. That Alfred figure is the only way you can get that by buying this Batcave.
Which really sucks, because I definitely want the Batcave, but and I want Alfred, but it's a lot for both, you know.
And you know, there are a ton of reviews on the internet as far as the Batcave is concerned, but you know, we're not gonna go and nitpick it at the moment. But again, detail and styling is very simple, minimalist, flat tones, not a lot of texture. But one of the features, and I think one of the biggest sell points for me, particularly in the vehicles and the play sets and things like that, is that they light up. And that is so cool. I mean, that really sold me. And it was a no-brainer, and when I went, you know, because initially I saw it and I was like, yeah, you know, it's a lot of money for a very simple set, but the minute, you know, I saw all the lights, I was like, yep, got to buy it.
I just like how much empty space there is.
Yeah.
So you can put heaps of stuff here.
You can put heaps of
You
stuff
can have
in
like a whole group of people in that one little space.
Absolutely. So
That's pretty cool.
I must say though, initially with the Batcave, they had problems with the vinyl stickers.
Yeah, with the stickers. Yeah.
Stickers. So I think DC Collectibles did ship out an extra set once you bought them. I think you might have to send an email in or something, and they'll give you a replacement. Yeah. But I bought these. I mean, in fact, almost the entirety of all my DC Collectibles animated series Batman stuff is from Dennis. So thank you, Dennis. Yeah. So that sold me. In fact, all these were acquired very recently. Is this Batmobile? I mean, this would be something that I think is a wonderful, wonderful figure. So the Batmobile comes along with these two figures, Batman and Robin, with the soft goods and also the Bat Signal. The Bat Signal is something you need to have. It's also battery operated. Yeah. But it uses, I think, 3-cell batteries as opposed to AA size batteries, which is a pain in the butt. We didn't have, so
that's why it's not lighting up.
But it's a nice touch. But if you bring it over here, what's really nice about this Bat Signal is that there's a lever here you can, is iconic in terms of Gordon doing the flip.
And it'd be perfect if you can have Gordon actually there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there is the single figure for Commissioner Gordon as well.
Yeah, which I thought that it's interesting, but again, it's packaging, right? It's about bundling something which offers the customer and consumer more value. I thought you probably would have bundled this with Gordon.
Yeah, it would make more sense.
Right,
yeah.
and then have that separate. So, but thank you, DC Collectibles. I like the fact that you included that with the Batmobile and the two figures. Yeah. So, man, great value again. Now, this vehicle, this is a nice looking vehicle. It looks like a graphite. And by the way, quickly, it lights up. Yeah. So, are there headlights?
Yeah, so there's the two headlights there. There's interior lights, and this bit here, if you want to, you just push that open, so the whole cockpit lights up.
You look at it. Look, even the turbine comes out. Man, again, this sold me.
Yeah, well, it's great to see this particular Batmobile because it's not one of the more popular ones. Yeah. The animated series Batmobile, it kind of is one of the ones that gets forgotten because it's a little bit derivative of the Tim Burton Batmobile from those movies. So it's a little bit similar, but I like it. I love this because I'm a bit of an old-fashioned car nut, and it's got that very 50s style, with the really flat, like it's that traditional flat American front end, kind of thing. Yeah. And
it looks like a muscle car.
Yeah, it looks like a muscle car, and I really like the look of this one. So it's cool to see it in a toy form, and I'm kind of jealous that you own this and I don't.
Well, it's never too late, Mike. Never too late. But it's also got a very angular, blocky design as well. But it looks amazing. But yeah, the light up feature was something that sold me.
The light up thing is really good too because it's not a super detailed model by necessity. Again, everything is very flat and simple with the animated series stuff. So by adding the lights, they've given it, something a little bit extra because there isn't a lot of, texture and bits and pieces. And as we saw before, the cockpit has got a lot of detail in there. Yeah. Most cockpits are usually not that detailed. And then the fact that it lights up is perfect.
Let's just do a quick comparison of, let's say, the two Batmans. So this Batman came from the Batmobile set, and this is from the Expressions pack. Just quick, in terms of just a visual reference.
It's hard to see a difference, isn't it?
No,
they're basically the same figure.
The same figure, yeah. Again, this is slightly annoying in regards to just trying to get the stand, but I can't spot a difference, to be honest.
No, I think they are like from the same mold and all that kind of thing, which is kind of cool because the heads are still interchangeable. Yep. So if you get the Batman Expression set and then you get the Batmobile set, you've actually got basically two fully fledged Batmen that you can, you can make them fight each other, or you could give them different heads and you could have them posed in completely different situations as part of your collection, you know what I mean? So you can use the Expressions pack and actually get, a bit more bang for your buck if you've got both of these sets, because you've got two figures which are essentially the same. Yeah. So you could have a Batman in an action pose in the middle of, a fight with the Joker and Harley, and then you could have a Batman with maybe the Bruce Wayne head, in his Batcave, sitting in his chair, kind of thing. So it gives you a bit of that's kind of cool that they are basically the same figure.
Okay, cool. And so what are your thoughts on Robin?
Well, Robin's good. He's just as good as the rest of them, especially for a figure who's got a little bit more detail than most of the other ones do, because he's got a few layers of clothing, which is slightly unusual for the rest of the sets. Yeah. Yeah, the Robin figure comes up well. It's it's a good representation of Robin from the animated series, from the later parts of it.
It does kind of feel a bit odd that there are 3 expressions pack, but we don't have a Robin expressions pack, right?
For me, I think the expressions pack for Robin would be little bit more difficult because, quite honestly, what expressions would you give him? I think he's just, this particular version of him isn't as iconic as maybe any of the other ones do. Like Robin's a bit more famous when he's in his other forms, when he's Nightwing or when he's,
or something else.
Red Hood or something like that.
Sure.
As a character on his own, I mean, it'd be great to get more heads and things like that for him, and maybe they'll do that in the future. But I just think it's like, what props do you give him? Those kind of things. Robin doesn't really use a lot of things. He's mostly Batman's sidekick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, maybe they probably just didn't see the value in that. And he's also not the most popular character.
You know what would have been,
be honest,
well, I mean,
not everyone loves
it's
Robin.
true. But you know what would have been cool? We had speech bubbles. Like, holy cow, Batman. But no, this animated. This animated, fair enough.
60s series.
Yeah, true. fair enough. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the head sculpt. I don't like the head sculpt. It looks almost like, if you look at the side profile, if you look at that side profile, I don't know if Aaron can get that. I don't know. I just feel like maybe additional heads for Robin would have been good.
Yeah, some other heads might be okay.
Right,
I kind of like how they've done the hair though. I think the hair looks really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's like sort of blocky and it's got that, it suits the rest of the style.
Yep.
I like the way they've done the hair. The face looks fine to me, to be honest. I don't really have a problem with it. It does look, all the angles and stuff sort of match the way he looked on the show. So
Here's one issue. If you change all the other Batmans and take away the soft goods and put the plastic capes on.
Yeah, you're stuck with this crappy cape on him. Yeah, I know.
Right.
They need to give him They need to give him a better cape.
Better cape, exactly. So I wonder if that. But I know with the individually carded figures, they might be a different type of cape. So
I'm not entirely sure.
Not entirely sure, but maybe that's the case. Yeah.
As far as I know too, they've given him these capes in the Batmobile set too.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're not going to go in the Batmobile. Because these guys actually will fit in the seats of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that if you give them the more rubberized, sculpted capes.
I think DC Collectibles would definitely kill this if they had more articulation. Again, other than the splits and the knee joints and also a bit of a pivot as well. You don't really get side rockers at all. You can only extend the shoulders up so much. Yeah. The elbow is only like a 90-degree thing.
Yeah, Batman's particularly bad for that because he's so broad.
He's so broad. But if they had something like a waist swivel, for example, that would have been good. But
it's very interesting. It's like most of them have that problem. The Joker doesn't. The Joker can completely turn. He can completely turn his legs around.
Okay.
He's got a little bit more.
Well, you see, we have a waist swivel here. Yeah. Right? And what do you think? Why can't you do that on that and that?
Yeah, it's interesting that they don't have the waist swivel on the rest of the figures. You know what I mean? It's just on the Joker. It's the only thing I would say, really, in terms of the design and the tooling of these figures, there's not a great deal of consistency. Like some of them, their feet can rotate, but they can't pivot. Yes. Or some of them, they pivot, but they don't rotate. You know what I mean? And it's not. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of rhyme or reason to it. Yeah. So there's probably just a little bit of inconsistency in terms of how they do it, or whether there's the same person designing all the figures, or I'm not entirely sure what reasons we would have for all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so those are the figures. We've done the Batmobile, looked briefly at the Batcave. Like I said, there are a ton of videos online with all these reviews. So we're not going to go through all of them, but they are nonetheless really lovely sets to own and have. But the last acquisition and the latest one is this wonderful set here, which I'm not going to open. I'm actually really savoring. I'm going to savor this at the moment. Let's move all those figures so we can have a good look at this. This is the Rogues Gallery. It probably goes for a lot of money now. Again, I got this from Dennis. And as far as villains are concerned, Bane, Killer Croc, Mr. Freeze, and Poison Ivy. All iconic antagonists again.
Yeah.
And definitely worth having in your collection. The way I see things is that if you want to collect something, you go all the way. So this is a really lovely set. It does light up, but like I said, there's tons of reviews.
Yeah, if you want to see more detail about it, but it is a really cool sort of set. Villain choices are interesting for me. I probably would have picked a few different ones.
I know. And okay, so which ones would you have picked?
Well, I like, I like Poison Ivy and I like Mr. Freeze being in there.
Yeah.
Bane's sort of okay, but he's not in the animated series all that much.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Killer Croc as well. I would have preferred, you know, Two-Face and Penguin. I think, you know, Two-Face, Penguin. If you're not going to have Joker and Harley, which obviously they've got all their own sets anyway.
Yeah.
I think Two-Face, Penguin, Poison Ivy, and then Mr. Freeze, especially like Mr. Freeze definitely, because Mr. Freeze, you know, sort of has his origins. I'd like to actually see like an expression pack for Mr. Freeze, for instance, because you could give him the different heads and you could have the masks and all that kind of stuff as well.
So, and other than all the villains, in this particular pack, we also have on the side here, Officer Renee Montoya. So another key support and protagonist in the whole animated series.
Yeah, just another character there, which is it's good to have, you know, just general Gotham PD as well, because you can pair her together with Commissioner Gordon and Batman, and you could really build like some cool situations out of, you know, just this set.
I mean, this set is also incredibly well packaged. You could use them. I mean, they have an LED function. They light up. The roof is removable. I think we'll probably have to do a photo session with all.
Yeah, we'll definitely do some content with this one just so people can kind of see a better look at it.
I mean, we did also forget to mention some of the extra accessories that came with the Batman Robin Batmobile set, but a whole bunch of different hands and things here. I don't really know what this is. I'm not quite sure. So if anyone can tell me what exactly this does.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's meant to be either. I don't know if it's part of the car or if it's one of the figures are meant to have it. Maybe it's something Robin's meant to have.
Quite possibly. Okay, so there you have it. Massive episode. As always, like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more episodes, more reviews, and also for more panels, and everything on the Collector's Workshop, Collector's Table, and Collector's Spotlight. So there you go. So from all of us at Toy Reel and the Batman animated series, this is Clinton and Mike signing out. Thanks for watching.